Hey everybody, the purpose of this video is to get you some solutions, if I can find my chalk, to this homework we turned in yesterday. I'm going to focus on the ones we didn't do in class, because we did some of them in class already. So I'll skip over the first three, because we did those in the warm-up actually. 3/4 is the fourth one down, where you had to shade 3/4 of the pie. 3/4, 75 hundredths, that's a pretty common one we're going to see in this class a lot. The fifths we'll see a lot, so 1/5 is 20% or 2/10. And then what's nice about that is once you know 1/5, you can get 2/5, 3/5, and 4/5 by just increasing by 2/10 each time. So 2/5 wasn't on here, but 2/5 would be 4/10, 2/10 more. 3/5 was, and that's going to go up to 6/10. The sixths, I only left one on here, 5/6. Now I know we did 1/6 in class, if I remember correctly. I might not remember correctly, I'm not sure. But 5/6, if you checked it, was approximately 833. I'm going to put an approximate sign there just to get you used to seeing that. These are all equals, because those are terminating decimals, as we talked about. They stop. That one is a repeater. It goes on forever. Forever and ever and ever and ever. 7/8, no, 1/8, excuse me, 1/8 is 125 thousandths. You could also say it as 12.5 hundredths, or 1 point, well, we'll get into all that later. Excuse me, I just misspoke. It could not be said as 12.5 hundredths. Yes, it could. Yes, it absolutely could. 12.5 hundredths. I said it right the first time. My brain is not quite awake yet. Apologies. 7/8 is the next one. And you can do the same thing with 7/8 as you did with the fifths. You can just keep adding these on to each other until you get to 7. I'm going to give you a fun little shortcut for this one. 7/8 is 7 of the eighths that we talked about before. Now what's nice about the eighths is every eighth is 125 thousandths. If you add 2 of them together, I'll do that over here, you'll get 25 hundredths, which is 1/4, which we didn't have on this, but we did it in class yesterday. If you add, and remember, a quarter is 2/8. If you add another quarter to that, that's another 2/8. You get a half, which is 4/8. So now we're at 4/8. 4 of the 7 we need. 2 more eighths. You're now at another 25 hundredths, which means you're at 75 hundredths, which should look familiar. That's this guy here. That's 6/8 altogether, which is 3/4. We got that right. And all we need is 1 more eighth. And the eighth is that 125 thousandth, which if you add all this up, you're going to get 875 thousandths. So, little mind things you can do. This is what we were doing at the very end of class yesterday, which was figuring out quick ways of getting decimal approximations. If you knew the smallest fraction of a unit, if you break 1 into 10 or 1 into 9 or 1 into 8, like this one, you can simply combine them to get any larger number of them that you need, which works out well. And the last two are 1/10 and 7/10, both of which we did in class lots of times yesterday. Number 2, rewrite the fraction so that 3/5 has a denominator of 100. This was just an exercise that you already knew how to do. I'd like to cycle back on things sometimes. It's about equivalence. We've talked about this lots in the first 3 weeks of class. So there's your, get you ready for percentages. 3/5, we'll call it 60% pretty soon, not just 6/10, but 60%. And the last one we did in class, it was rewriting 5/8 so it has a denominator of 1. I'm going to give you the result we got, talk you through it, and then make sure that you know what we did in class. I'm going to let you ask me if you weren't in class and want to see how I did this, but I'm going to talk you through it. To get to 1 from 8, it stymied us for a little while, because how can you multiply something by 8 to get 1? It gets smaller. And people try. They said, well, it's got to be 8. Well, let's try 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Darn. And I think somebody said, people tried two different things. I think they tried one. Well, so 8 times 1 is 1. Or excuse me, 8 times 1 is 8. We tried 2. 8 times 2 is 16. We tried 3. 8 times 3 is 24. And we realized, oh my goodness, of all those numbers we tried, 8 times 8, 8 times 3, 8 times 2, 8 times 1. 8 times 1 got us 8, and we quote unquote can't get any smaller. And then we realized nobody said you had to multiply by a whole number. You could also multiply by a fraction. So this is what I'll leave you with. If you multiply 8 by 1/8, you get 1. We talked about this on the second day of class. So what happens if you multiply 5 by 1/8? And then look what you got. You can think about this a different way, is that any number can be written over 1 with a denominator of 1, which we talked about also on the second day. Two of those little rules that we've established that are proving pretty important as we move through this class together, and they will continue to do so. So, hope that helped. We'll see you in class.